Welcome to The Blast Zone, the podcast where we dig up the bombs that shook Hollywood and try to find out why they went up in flames. This week, more like Take Me Out at the Ball Game. This is The Fan. Welcome to The Blast Zone.
Welcome to The Blast Zone.
We are not a podcast about bad movies. We are a podcast about movies that did badly.
That's right.
I'm Jon Drake, in-house film critic of my Letterboxd account.
And I'm Ian Dukes. I'm a person with thoughts and feelings, and some of them are about movies.
Movies like The Fan, which we'll be talking about today. But before we get into that, Ian, are you all right? It sounds like you barely got out that welcome to the Blast Zone there. You had like a little frog in your voice.
I forgot to breathe. I'm so excited about today's episode. I'm not breathing over here. Hold on,
Wait, something special happening today?
Yeah, you know.
I mean, I already told everybody at the end of the last episode, but it's still exciting. One of our first guests is back for a return to the zone. You know him, you love him. Snack connoisseur, culture commenter, all-around internet personality. It's Regular Mike.
Mic check 1 2. You know the vibes. Regular Mike, aka El Snacko, aka Kodak Snack.
We're listening.
We here. We back. Blast Zone. I'm ready, man. I'm ready.
Mike, it's been almost 3 years, I think, since you were first with us in the Blast Zone. What's been going on? How have you been?
I've been all right, man. That was that long ago?
Yeah.
Wow, man. People still talk to me about that episode. Media Man was a very favorable movie where I'm from.
Yeah.
And
that's right.
People still spin that episode and they still scroll back on my page and see the picture that you put up with my face and Media Man's body.
That's Ian's
fun.
Photoshop.
That was very fun. But yeah, man, 3 years and a lot is going on. I'm still moving on social media. I've since begun to grow a stand-up comedian career.
Let's go.
You know, I'm doing that now, and I'm just surviving in New York City. That's probably the most important thing.
It's all you can do.
That's a fact.
It was really cool to see when I told people at the end of the Evan Almighty episode that you were coming back. Saw the downloads for Meteor Man start jumping up again, which is
that's fire.
Really cool because it's a 3-year-old episode, so they usually don't get a lot of play anymore. But hopefully some newer listeners are going back through the back catalog to check that one out. Even more will after this one.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, yo.
Of course. Ian, what about you? How's your week been?
I have a little update. People who listen to the show might remember I teed up a cliffhanger in our last episode. My doctor had done a little checkup and ordered a full set of lab work. So here's the payoff. Everything was normal.
Oh, sweet.
Pretty much none of the tests fell outside of the range of like perfectly normal, which is good. That's a relief. But it kind of leaves a hanging question of why does my body give me so much shit? It doesn't show up on the tests. So I'm back to the old familiar routine, just trying to self-diagnose and treat myself.
Yeah, that was a bit anticlimactic. I'm not going to lie, man. When I tapped in, I fully expected you to be suited up with tubes coming out of you, like full Wolverine, you know what I'm saying? Adamantium Ian. But you healthy. I guess we cool with that, right?
That's probably what I need is a skeleton transplant. I feel a lot better.
He's healthy, but he doesn't feel it.
Yeah, which is the American way, probably. I don't know.
Yeah,
we're all getting up there. I think this is just how it's going to be.
Yeah.
Now on.
Yeah. I'm still hooping though, so I don't know about y'all.
That's probably keeping you in good shape.
I ain't hooped in a year, but I'm still hooping though.
Okay.
Just in theory.
Mental hoops.
I can't do like cardio, but I do try to lift every day.
Nice.
Yeah, man. Welcome to the gun show, right?
That's what I got going for me. I'm 5'8". You got to have something.
I ain't mad, man.
Before we get into The Fan, you know what we got to do. Mike, did you watch anything in the last couple of weeks you wanted to share with the listeners that you thought was interesting?
I didn't really get a chance to catch no flicks or anything, but I watched a lot of NBA finals and I was rather disappointed. I'm not the biggest fan of Boston as a staff, record label, or crew. And if you're from Boston, probably don't like you too. But anyway, Celtics won a championship. It was very anticlimactic finals. Wasn't really entertaining. A lot of blowouts, but you know, salute to them.
Yep. I was very close to getting caught in the victory parade. Me and my wife went to Boston, but we got there like 1 o'clock and I think the parade wrapped up at like 12:30. We just missed all that nonsense.
That would have been dangerous, man.
But it was still like every bar we tried to go to, every restaurant was still packed with people in the green.
Boston, man. What can I say?
It's a pain in the ass to drive around. It's a pain in the ass to walk around. No, but we love our listeners in Boston.
Shout out to the people from Boston. Y'all cool. I just, the sports teams are not my favorites, to say the least.
That's fair. What about you, Ian? What have you watched?
I watched something that was pretty fun. A new show on Apple TV Plus called Presumed Innocent. The big star of the show is Jake Gyllenhaal, but it's really got this powerhouse cast, really deep cast. Great performances from Ruth Negga, from Peter Sarsgaard, Bill Camp, who's a favorite of ours. It's like a classic legal thriller. You could almost say it's like a formulaic show because you kind of see the beats coming. And that's because it's adapted by old TV hand David E. Kelley. He's done apparently a bunch of different streaming series in recent years. Not all of them have been that successful, but I think he's in pretty good form with this one. It's maybe not quite at the level of Big Little Lies, which was his show that I really loved in its first season, but has a lot of similarities. It has these really interesting characters that are like deeply conflicted and they just go at each other hard in these really tense, dramatic scenes. And then the whole show, besides just being character drama, it's wrapped around a gruesome murder mystery with this whole complicated legal case going on. So it pays off all the genre stuff if you're in it for the thriller or for the legal stuff. And there's a shocking cliffhanger at the end of every episode. It's pretty fun. I'm 3 episodes in. The 4th is dropping today as we record this, and I'm into the show.
That cliffhanger at the end of episode 3 was a doozy.
Oh, yeah.
I can't wait to see where that goes. We did tweet about it from the Blast Zone account because I keep thinking it takes place in the 90s because Gyllenhaal's got the 3-piece suit on everywhere he goes.
He has some really interesting wardrobe.
It's a very dated look, let's say. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I'm also watching it and digging it.
I might gotta subscribe to Apple TV because I'm hearing a lot. I'm hearing they got some heat on there. Like I heard Dark Matter. I heard about the Jake Gyllenhaal show y'all talking about. I don't know, man. They seem like they coming up in the content world.
You don't sail the high seas, the old piracy route?
Nah, I don't, man. I'm a man of integrity, man. What can I say?
What are you trying to say? I mean, me neither, in case my internet service provider is listening.
Yeah, man. I was the guy out there buying CDs, buying cassettes and whatnot while people was pirating music. That was me.
There's just too many streaming services now. Like you hear a good show. Oh yeah, it's streaming on Gleep.
Nah,
I'm like, I'm
really
not getting a whole new service for one show.
Cutting the cord nowadays, it don't make no sense because if you got every service, you're paying the same thing as cable.
Yeah, easily.
But yeah, David E. Kelly, he has been on a good run. I watched Goliath. I know he created that, the Billy Bob Thornton legal thriller.
Oh, okay.
Big Sky, which was, I know Ryan Phillippe, our boy from The Way of the Gun, was in that first season of that one. It was pretty good. I was a big fan of like Boston Public back in the day.
Oh, you taking it back with that.
So we got sports, TV. We just need one more to fill out the trifecta. And luckily, I'm here for you, as always. I got a movie. I checked out a little something called I Saw the TV Glow, which is a new horror/drama from Jane Schoenbrunn, who did We're All Going to the World's Fair, which was a very well-received horror movie from 2022, I believe. This is ostensibly a horror movie, but really more of like a coming-of-age drama with some horror elements, I would say. I was never afraid, but I was very intrigued. Let's say you're never going to be scared watching this movie. You can watch it with the lights off. You don't have to worry about nightmares.
Afraid is crazy.
You never been afraid watching a movie?
Hell no, man.
Come on.
I put it on mute. That's my trick.
There you go.
I'm gonna have to send you some recommendations.
A scare Mike.
Yeah, I'm gonna scare Mike.
Yeah, like listen, man. I'm scared enough surviving in New York City working a midnight shift for the transit. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if I need movies, man. I'm good.
Also, apparently Fred Durst is in it. I didn't even realize that.
Oh no, send that over. That's my guy. Send that over.
I'm loving Fred Durst's late career revival.
It's wild.
Fred Durst is my guy.
Yeah, Justice Smith, who we've talked about on the pod before. We're both fans of him. He is the lead character, Owen. It basically is about a young man who gets really into a TV show that's called The Pink Opaque. And man, this is a hard movie to talk about without spoiling stuff. You got to really dance around it, but maybe all with the TV show is not what it seems. That's all I'm going to say, but check it out if you like contemplative, kind of ponderous horror movies. Soundbite. Yeah, I'm struggling because it's so new to streaming.
Nah, just give it up, man. Listen, your recommendation is enough, man. Come on. You the guy, man. Your recommendation is enough.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on to The Fan. Mike, you recommended The Fan for the pod.
Yes, I did.
Let me get some backstory on your history with this movie. When did you first see it? Did you like it immediately or did it grow on you over time?
The Fan came out in 96, so that I'm gonna date myself. That makes me 13 years old. When I was young, my mom used to bring movies home all the time. I wouldn't say we were movie buffs, but we enjoyed watching movies together. And Wesley Snipes was always one of my favorite actors in that time of my life. So obviously Wesley Snipes, Robert DeNiro, also know Nino Brown, Jimmy Conway. Bring that home. I need to watch that. You know what I'm saying? Sports. I remember watching it as soon as it was released via VHS. Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was a decent thriller. It had the sports theme, which I probably needed to keep my attention as a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
So why not bring it to the table? It fits the bill for the pod.
I want to give John Leguizamo his flowers, though.
Shout out to John.
You said Nino Brown and Jimmy Conway. Don't forget Benny Blanco from the Bronx.
That's fair. That's fair, man. That's very fair.
It's a big performance. He was already in Carlito's Way, right? That came out before this. It had to have.
Yeah.
But Ian, what about you? Did you remember The Fan when it came out? Were you familiar with it at all?
Not really. I say this about a lot of movies, but I recognized the poster art on this, and that was about it. I think I probably in my head had filed this away mistakenly as a Scorsese film. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because it was De Niro and it had dramatic poster art. So I really didn't know shit about it.
No, it's our boy Tony Scott. I don't think I ever saw this movie the whole way through, but I've definitely seen the whole movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
Sit down and catch the last half an hour and then sit down catch the first half an hour and then you try to catch the middle at some point. But Tony Scott has been one of my directors that I've really dove into in the last 5 or so years. And my friend Matt, who I know is a listener, can attest. We get into many drunken arguments about the fact that I think Tony Tony is a more talented filmmaker than Ridley.
Wow.
And
Okay.
That's a hot take. I know. I'm not saying his movies are always better, but I'm saying his highs are higher. His lows are probably lower too, though.
Tony got some heat.
Yeah, it's crazy. We'll go over it at the end of the episode. His career is so up and down. I don't think he ever had 2 hits in a row, but he also never really had 2 flops in a row. It was always just like one up, one down. But sadly, he did pass away a few years ago. R.I.P. Tony.
R.I.P. Tony, man. Word.
His big brother's still out there making 5 movies a year or whatever.
Yeah.
We just talked about Ridley too, because we had the Napoleon episode fairly recently.
He's making movies like crazy, filling in the Scott family tradition. Both really working directors who just wanted to work.
Yeah, they weren't too precious about their IPs and the franchises they went on to create, which I guess you could say Top Gun is a franchise now.
That's a fact.
There's a second
Took
one
a while.
in the books and a third one coming. Yeah, it took a while, but it sucks that Tony wasn't here to see that all happen.
Yeah,
now.
that is a shame.
Forget Beverly Hills Cop.
That was a Tony Scott joint?
Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Oh,
Wait, do you mean also or number 2?
No, number 2.
Okay.
yeah, he took it
Yeah,
over. The first one was Martin Brest. That they're just talking about it on Blank Check right now.
Oh, they're doing his career?
Yeah, who,
Nice.
like I don't even know, but he did Midnight Run and Beverly Hills Cop, so got some good stuff in there.
All right. Do you want to hear the story about how this movie got made? Full disclosure, it's a lot less dramatic than some of the other episodes we've covered in the past.
All right,
Yeah, let's do it.
let's hear how this thing happened.
All right. In 1995, Peter Abrams' novel The Fan, about an obsessed baseball fan named Gil Renard who descends further into insanity as his fixation on a particular player grows, was published. It received mostly positive reviews and seemed ripe for a film adaptation, and because we're talking about it on this podcast, you know a film adaptation happened. Mandalay Entertainment and TriStar Pictures were keen on producing the movie and hired Foof Sutton, or Feef, best known as a writer of TV comedies like Cheers, Newhart, and Bob, to adapt the novel into a screenplay. It's just about the only movie Sutton would ever write.
Well, if at first you don't succeed, stop.
They offered Tony Scott the directing job as he was coming off Crimson Tide, which was a commercial and critical success, and True Romance, which was a commercial failure but a critical success. Scott actually turned down the offer to direct The Fan twice before learning Robert DeNiro was interested in playing the role of Gil Renard, as he'd always wanted to work with DeNiro.
You working with me?
But DeNiro wasn't actually the studio's first choice for Gil. Jack Nicholson first turned down the role, and Al Pacino was also interested in it. But DeNiro won out, and the movie had one of its stars. For the role of star outfielder Bobby Rayburn, who was definitely not based on Barry Bonds at all, they wanted Brad Pitt. But Pitt turned it down as he wanted the role of Gil, because a 26-year-old Brad Pitt is believable as a divorced, failing knife salesman.
The divorce part, now I can see that.
The role would then be offered to Wesley Snipes, who accepted the offer, and the movie was on its way. With a decent budget for an R-rated thriller of $55 million, the movie would have to make a splash to turn a profit. John Kruk and Cal Ripken were both brought on as consultants, but according to Kruk, Scott had no knowledge of baseball and no desire to learn. Kruk was highly critical of the production in several interviews leading up to its release, which may have soured hardcore baseball fans on it.
That or the fact that they don't sell beer in the theater.
The film released on August 16, 1996, and opened in 4th place with $6.2 million, barely beating out the 4th week of Independence Day. It would drop 47% to 7th place in week 2, and by week 4 it was being pulled out of theaters, having made $42 million worldwide. Critics weren't kind to it either, as it currently has a 37% on Rotten Tomatoes, but it has received something of a critical reevaluation in the years since, with many viewers praising the performances and Scott's direction.
Thank goodness they landed those 2 actors in the lead roles, because they really go a long way towards making the movie enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, I don't know that this movie works with any 2 other people. Certainly not as well, especially Snipes. I think this is a wrong movie for Brad Pitt to be popping up in.
Anybody else in this movie, I'm probably not even watching it. I ain't gonna hold y'all up. It hit a home run, a proverbial home run with the casting, if you ask me.
It's almost like surprising they got DeNiro to do it. Not that he's like the choosiest actor with his roles, but when you hear this description, like it could easily be like schlock, you know?
Yeah.
It could really just be over the top silliness, but you get DeNiro playing Gil, and even when he does go over the top, it's still somewhat grounded because he's able to show you every side of the character at once.
Right.
It's juicy. Yeah, he has some heavy lifting to do, because you got to see him transform from frustrated salesman to straight up psycho killer in 2 hours. And the turning points are great. It works for De Niro. And I love what Snipes did with it too. I don't know how much credit you can give Snipes for playing it the way he did, which is much more earnest. He didn't fall into the trap of playing the super brash asshole athlete. When push comes to shove, he's actually super genuine and reasonable and nice and like the best guy in the movie, which I think is great. It flips your expectations a little bit, because he comes in wearing a hat and funny sunglasses and being loud, but he's actually such a good dude.
But he's driving a Hummer, which we established in Evan Almighty is like the signature vehicle
That's
of
true.
douchebags.
Yes,
That's
it is.
shorthand.
Yes, it
You
is.
show a Hummer and that character is cooked, man.
Yeah, I was actually really refreshed and also surprised because I could have sworn I remembered Snipes being like a dick in this movie. But then I was like, I think I just remember Barry Bonds being in a day.
Yeah, because when you look at it, it's giving Barry Bonds out the gate. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
When you look at it, you thinking Barry, but when you focus in on the character, he's pretty humanized in there. You know what I'm saying? He's not bulletproof, let's say. Like, he has moments in the film where he's at his lowest low, and then points where he rises to the occasion, and he did a great job. Like you said, he was one of the better guys in the film.
Yeah, even
he
like
a hero?
I think he is. I think he reaches hero status at some point, because the bad things that happen in the movie are really not his fault, no matter what you think about how he treats the fans or whatever. There's no excuse for what Gil ends up doing in this movie.
You can't rationalize that at all, regardless of how that man feel about the fans.
But even Leguizamo's character, you kind of are waiting for the other shoe to drop where he ends up being like some kind of sleazeball. But he's really just like a good manager who seems to be looking out for his client's best interest. And like they clearly have an old friendship. He probably brought him along like when he got famous or whatever. But he seems good at his job and actually cares about Bobby. So there's really no like morally gray characters, which was refreshing for this kind of movie. There's Gil, who's objectively the worst, just a real piece of shit. Fuck that guy. Left his son at the baseball game.
Yeah, right out the gate. Like, bro, what we
opening
doing?
Day.
What we doing, man?
He's like, I'm going to get a beer, and he just goes to a sales call.
Before he even leaves his son at the game, he runs him over to try to catch a foul ball.
That's right. Oh yeah, they had to set up that he's ruthless.
Guy's a real piece of shit.
Like, I've known some people who were into sports, but Gil he's something else, man.
Yeah, Gil a wild boy, man.
But we'll get into it. The movie is presented as a descent into madness, but this dude was crazy from the get-go. There are signs there if you know what to look for.
Yeah, it's really an interesting part of how you take in the movie and how enjoyable it is. I was a little bit confused at first because there's definitely a long stretch of the movie where they're setting up Gil and he's actually just a struggling salesman. Like, he's even called Gil, right? We know The Simpsons Gil the salesman was based on the Glengarry Glen Ross sales guy. So there's this like mold of like...
Of course, Gilly Loman from Death of a Salesman.
Isn't that Willie?
It's Gilly now.
Oh, okay.
I just changed it.
Thank you. We will contact Arthur Miller's estate and update their records. But yeah, like they spend a lot of time letting real world stuff that's semi-plausible kind of afflict him. He's trying hard as a salesman. He's actually got some good qualities, but his customers don't need knives. I don't know what the fuck he's doing selling knives.
Yeah, are they even like kitchen knives or are they just knives?
This is like some Rambo shit, bro. He was selling knives that was used to fillet more than a porgy. You know what I'm saying? He was out here filleting people with them knives.
Because it makes sense when you see him in the sporting goods store trying to sell them, but then you see him like he's just going to office buildings.
He's in
like,
some weird places.
What do they need those kind of knives for?
And his boss is demonstrating the knife by stabbing it through a car door. So that guy's off his rocker in the first place. That's why you feel kind of like, are we supposed to be sympathetic to Gil? Is he just a put upon guy who has had too much and breaks? But then by the end of the movie, you're like, oh no, he was gone the whole time.
Right. It's like they try to trick the viewer a little bit. You know, they try to
get
on Gil's side a little bit, rock with Gil, and then Gil gonna drop you off eventually because he knew where he was going.
You feel more and more uncomfortable around the guy.
One-way ticket to Crazy Town. But then the movie does a interesting thing, and it's an interesting double feature with another movie that I think tries to do something similar and fails, which is Falling Down by Joel Schumacher. And I know we talked about it off mic, and Mike, you haven't seen it yet, so I'll try not to spoil it too hard. But
I'm very familiar with the movie, the concept, and the references, but I can't say I could recall anything in it.
Yeah, but it's like a grieved, middle-aged white guy, and he's just having a real bad day. And Falling Down takes place all in one day, whereas The Fan was over a couple weeks or whatever.
Right.
The world just keeps shitting on him, and they both react in terrible ways. But while The Fan always seems to know that Gil is in the wrong and it condemns him, I think Falling Down has this icky habit of being like, he's taking it too far, but doesn't he kind of have a point? And I think that's the danger with The Fan, that it actually is better in my book because it avoids trying to make you feel too bad for Gil at any moment.
Yeah,
because it becomes confusing if you do that.
It muddles the whole point of the movie.
Yeah.
So do you want to get into the story of the movie so we could talk about some of these beats a little more in depth?
Yeah, here we go.
All right.
It's the start of Major League Baseball season in San Francisco. And in the lead up to opening day, two particular men, strangers to one another, are each dealing with their own stresses. One man, Bobby Rayburn, played by Wesley Snipes, is a superstar center fielder who just signed a $40 million deal to come to the Giants. And he's facing pressure to live up to the expectations from all sides, including from local sports broadcaster Jules Stern, played by Ellen Barkin, who briefly connects Bobby with a supportive caller on her radio show. That supporter is the other man, Gil Renard, played by Robert DeNiro, an obsessive Giants fan facing pressures of his own. Gil is fighting with his ex-wife over visitations with their young son Richie, and with his boss over his declining performance as a knife salesman. Gil takes his son to the opening day game, but leaves the kid alone in the stands for several innings while he rushes to meet a sales prospect that doesn't pan out. So when a friendly stranger takes the abandoned child home, the incident leads to Gil's wife taking out a restraining order on him. Shortly thereafter, Gil is fired from his job for scaring his customers. At the same time, tension's been brewing between Bobby Rayburn and Giants' former star center fielder Juan Primo, played by Benicio del Toro, who got pushed into left field in favor of Bobby. Even with some negotiating help from his agent Manny, played by Jon Leguizamo, Bobby can't get Primo to give up his lucky jersey number 11, which Bobby always used to wear in Atlanta. To make things worse, Bobby is injured when he collides with Primo as they both chase a fly ball. Now it's just a few days into the season, and both Bobby Rayburn and Gil Renard have fallen into a slump.
Why not just make Bobby be coming from Pittsburgh? Like, why are we doing this whole Atlanta dance? Like,
Nah, that'd been too easy, man. They might
somebody got sued.
They might have hit some copyright infringement, plagiarism.
Let's just go over the similarities real quick. Barry Bonds was born in Riverside, California, I believe, but grew up in the Bay Area. Just like Bobby Rayburn, grew up in the Bay Area. He was a big star with his first team, Pittsburgh Pirates for Barry Bonds, Atlanta Braves for Bobby Rayburn. Signs a big contract for his hometown team, just like Barry Bonds did. Is standoffish with reporters at first, just like Barry Bonds. Antagonistic to his teammates at times, just like Barry Bonds.
Yeah. I mean, it goes all the way down to the earring, bro.
Yeah.
Even the dangling earring. That was a Bond staple.
Absolutely. And the movie does call it out at one point. To its credit, it's fully aware of what it's doing. But part of me wonders, like, Tony Scott didn't know shit about baseball. So is this all Fief doing this, or Foof?
It might have been Fief.
The writer, Mr. Foof Sutton?
We had to look up and debate how Fief Sutton pronounces his name.
We found out that he pronounces it Fief, but I just think Foof is more fun.
Foof is nuts.
So I'm going with
wait till
Foof.
you see it. You can't see how it's spelled. For anybody who's never heard of the guy, which I don't blame you, it's spelled P-H-O-E-F. How would you approach that on a cold read?
I'm saying Foof.
Probably be Foof.
But I got to give Foof his flowers because he did write a couple episodes of Terriers, which is one of my favorite shows of all time.
One of your very favorites every time it comes up.
Yeah. So he's a good man, Foof, I think. I hope. I don't know. I don't know shit about the guy.
I just call him P. Yo, P, who's good, P?
There you go.
P. All right. Dap him up real quick. You know what I'm saying? He probably more of a handshake guy. Shout out to P.
Yeah.
So
good old
Fief knew. I have a feeling Fief knew his baseball a little bit.
This you got to. You came up with a great title for this section, so you got to say it.
This note that I wrote was baseball, motherfucker. Do you speak it? Because there's a lot of effort to insert jargon and the fans.
Ian, I'm sorry. Could you try that one more time with some real jus de vivre? Like,
I'm not doing Sam Jackson. I'm not doing Sam Jackson.
Baseball, motherfucker. Do you speak it?
Yeah, put a little sauce on there, man.
It's not my wheelhouse. I leave it to everyone's imagination how that sounds coming out of Samuel L's mouth.
That's smart. Leave it up to the imagination. It's always better.
Yeah, we could spend the whole episode just pointing out the ways that they got the baseball stuff wrong or just was off or weird. And that actually hampered my enjoyment of the movie. Like, everyone just keeps going, oh, 40 million, 40 million, 40 million or $40 million man is like, this movie's Pilsen. They say it like 100,000 times. Every character questions Bobby's 40 million.
And that's the lifetime value of his contract. I looked it up, and Shohei Ohtani makes $70 million a year.
That's exactly where I was going to go with that. Man's got $40 million for his deal, and Shohei is out here spending $40 million on FanDuel.
Yeah, just gambling the night away.
He's worth it, though, you guys. You don't know how good it feels to have him on your team.
Oh, he's on the Dodgers now. I was going to say.
Yeah, lifelong Dodger fan.
If you were an Angels fan, but no. Yeah, because you're not far from Echo Park.
Dodger Stadium is a hop skip away from me.
Angels Stadium is how far from you? Like an hour?
Something like that. I don't even know. Somewhere down in Orange County. I don't call that LA like they do.
But I think even in 96, 40 million for the life value of a deal wasn't outrageous to that degree.
No, I don't think so.
And to me, it wasn't even so much the amount. It was the way that the Jewel character, who's the sports radio host, and Bobby and the agents and the fans, they're throwing it around like, oh, should we take it back? Was that a good idea to spend the 40? I don't know. I feel like when you spend on a big player and they go into a slump or they don't perform when they get to your team, in my experience, that's not what fans say. Oh, where'd the money go? I hate that we spent the money. They go, oh, this guy kicked ass when he was in Atlanta. Why do they always suck when they come to my team? That's what a fan would say, right?
And I think
they also might try to take the money back too. Man,
okay. All right.
As a Yankee fan, we've paid a hell of a lot of money to some people who probably didn't deserve it. You know what I mean? So you get those fans who do a little bit of both.
Okay, that's fair.
But we also paid for people well beyond their prime. But then the only times I can remember like this kind of venom about somebody's contract was like A-Rod. When he signed that big deal with the Rangers, people were like, not that he's not worth it, just that no player is worth it.
Yeah, it was astronomical.
It was the first time I think we saw something in like the 9 digits for a lifetime deal.
Man.
Maybe that's it. Maybe now I'm just jaded. Maybe back in the 90s, those numbers, when you got up into tens of millions, it really shocked and scandalized people. But now we're just like, whatever, I don't know. Money is thrown around like crazy.
The thunder?
Yeah, it's thunderstorming. It's thunderstorming where I'm at, bro.
That's what that sound was? I thought that was a plane was flying over before, but then it didn't go away.
Nah, it's thunder. I mean, listen, it fits the movie.
Yeah, it's a rainy movie.
You got to show us your best pitch.
That's a fact. Wait, I haven't showed you my best pitch.
One of the most ridiculous scenes in the movie, but we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Goofy. We're going to get to it, though.
Yeah, and then there's a couple other instances. Ian very helpfully pointed out that left fielder Juan Primo chases a ball to his right and then collides with the center fielder.
Yeah, it's like something didn't add up. The left fielder was running to his right, the center fielder was running to his left, and they crashed into each other. Where were they actually?
And I don't think the direction of this movie is particularly showy, except in the baseball scenes when Tony Scott decides to have a cut every not 5 seconds, every half a second.
Stylized.
And he fully admitted part of the reason he took this job was because he had already signed the contract to do Enemy of the State with Will Smith. And he knew he wanted to make that movie with a lot of drone shots because of like the surveillance state kind of theme of the movie.
Oh, right.
And with a lot of really quick cuts. And since he wasn't familiar with that technology, he's like, fuck it, I'll just try it out on the fan.
I ain't knocking it.
It mostly works, but there's a couple baseball scenes that are just filmed a little too kinetically.
Yeah.
Shots was like too tight. Like they needed more wide shots.
Very tight shots. Yeah. You have no context for what you're seeing a lot of the time.
Except for he uses the same, every time anyone hits the ball, makes contact, whether it's a home run or an out, he uses the same kind of cartoon shot of like tilt up to the outfield and show the ball sort of
I hate
disappearing
that
into the distance. It looks really funny.
I hate
and
that
dumb.
shot. Ball looks like a blur, right? Like, nah, I ain't like that shot.
So we've all been to baseball games in our life. We know that it's customary etiquette that when the game's on the line or something real exciting is about to happen, what do? You sit in your seat quietly.
Yeah. Hands in your lap.
You don't stand up and cheer. You don't make noise because that's how you get yelled at by the other fans.
Exactly. That's how we know that Gil is a whack job, because he's standing up and yelling when their all-star slugger is up with bases loaded and full count. He's going crazy for some reason. And the fans have to put him in his place and tell him down in front now. And he finally has to sit down.
And the gentleman who screams down in front, you might recognize him. It's MC Gainey, famed character actor in an early role. Where do you know him from, Ian? Have you seen him on other stuff?
I don't know. I just knew his face. He says one line in the movie, and then there's one shot back to him with him smirking with his mustache. And I'm like, I know that dude.
You know where I know him from? Justified. He was the big bad in season 1 of Justified.
Justified crossover of the week.
Really?
Bo Crowder himself, the father of Boyd Crowder. Yo, I just saw lightning flash from Mike's room. Unfortunately, Mike is having a weather-related
It's going down in New York City right now.
It hasn't hit me yet.
I think Jesus might be coming back, man. I don't know.
We really need Mike to hit a home run before the umps call the game.
That's a fact. I see what you did there.
We're racing against the clock, just like Bobby. Yeah, so MC Gainey, like lots of good little character actors in this movie, but also some big names. Like you said, Del Toro playing like
Toro was a big one.
He's a small part, but pivotal, like important. You had to have the right guy in that role to sell it.
Absolutely.
And he really does it. I've never seen him be bad in anything, I don't think.
No, but this one is low key. Like he only gets a few moments. He doesn't overplay them. He likes to play big characters when they're called for, but he plays it pretty real. He and Snipes both are the heart and soul of the movie in the way that they feel like real people.
And there was always stories about tensions between the Latin American players who maybe didn't commingle with their American teammates so much when they made it to the majors. So that part of it does ring true. Maybe even incidentally, like they didn't realize how true to life they were being, because I don't know if those stories were really out in the media yet.
Yeah. His little portrayal, without that many words, he says more true things about the game of baseball than all the other words combined, where they try to tell you how the game is played and Gil teaches his son about this is the way this works. All that stuff is mostly true, but it sounds stiff coming out of DeNiro's mouth. But just Benicio's reaction shots, you're like, oh, that's baseball. I get it.
He might have been the most authentic character, really, because especially with the way baseball is today and the demographics with the cultures, he fit right in. He'll fit right in. If they did a remake today, which is probably something I wanted to go over with y'all.
Okay.
He was probably one of the more authentic that he'll fit in any era playing that role.
Yeah. It almost seems like they had the gift of foresight when they wrote this movie, because I feel like the huge influx of Latin American players came like in the late 90s, maybe. That could just be my memory of like when I was really into baseball skewing it.
Exactly. Like Latin American, they didn't have the presence that they do today. And to have him in it then was great foresight.
Yeah. And then when he rolls up his like shows his arm and he's got the 11 tattooed there, you're just like, oh,
everybody doing today.
Yeah. And it just, I don't know, it added a lot of layers to his character without needing extra scenes or extra dialogue. Like you just understood immediately what he was about.
Right. And that's really a thing, that number thing, man. It's a lot of players in today's sports world. They'll do anything for them numbers. So that just goes to show you that's something that transcends time. That lucky number thing.
Yeah. You've heard there's some crazy money changing hands for jersey
money,
numbers.
6 figures. Like it's going to the point where people have negotiated with leagues to have their numbers changed. Forget players. is they negotiating with leagues, they buying out the stock of the old number jerseys and all of that. Like, it get crazy.
Oh, who are you talking? You know, I'm a Bengals fan. We got to talk about Chad.
Yeah.
He didn't even change his number. He just wanted to change his name. But they still made him buy all the old jerseys.
Had to buy out all the stock. It's a business.
Oh, that's wild.
I had one of each. I had a Chad Johnson and an Ocho Cinco.
Oh, that's right. That's your team. I forgot. You were there for the Ocho Cinco era.
And then they didn't even retire it. They gave it to T. Higgins, I think.
Word. They wasn't going to retire that number, man.
He changed his name.
There's not that many numbers.
He's now the third best receiver in Bengals history, but he was the best one for a long time. Maybe now he's their third best now.
I feel like there's fewer numbers in football. By position, they have a small range that they each.
They're changing that now, though.
It's not like that anymore. You can wear any number you want now.
They opened it up maybe 5 years ago. They started to.
Word. They got guys with number 0 out there, Ian.
So I got tuned in. I'm missing the NFL, obviously.
You don't expect it to really like fuck with your head that much, but when you see like an offensive lineman wearing 7, you're like, this is weird.
Yeah,
I don't like
that
this.
would freak me out.
The 0 is the one that throws me most. 0, like, what we doing, man?
I remember that from the XFL. He hate me. He was number 0.
Yeah, like, what we 0? Okay. A linebacker wearing number 0. Like, nah, come on.
No, yeah. So we talked about Leguizamo a little bit already, so I don't think we need to dive into that. Let's talk about Gil's family unit or lack thereof, because he's got a tense situation here. And the movie does that thing where at first you're like, oh man, like she's really riding.
Yeah, she's doing too much, man. Get off Gil's neck like that, man. But then he just want to hang out with his kid, watch the ball game. You know what I mean?
But even when Gil's with his kid, like he doesn't seem to enjoy it.
He doesn't.
He hates that kid, or he hates being a father.
I don't know what it was.
He's not good at it, whatever it is.
He's really not good at it. But also his kid seems a little scared of Gil, even though we never get the idea that Gil hits him or anything. He's always had a screw loose, clearly.
Yeah, she calls it out. The ex Ellen calls it out and says, don't make him do things he doesn't want to do. And he's like, I don't make him do that. And I was like, clearly, that's his pattern.
Yeah, meanwhile, his kid know how to work a butterfly knife, right?
So he's good with the knife.
I'm sure that's something he wanted to do, right?
But that I thought was like a really good touch. It's like the kid actually does look up to his dad. And that's one thing that he absorbed from the dad is like knife skills. And he's into his little pocket knife.
I think at that age, the kid's supposed to be what, like 8 or 9?
Probably. Judging off the little league setting.
They're going to look up to their dad no matter what. But that doesn't mean the dad can't fuck them up mentally for life.
That's when the dad do the most damage, is when you look up to him and he ain't worth much.
We have a Blast Zone parallel that just hit me. Strange dads giving their young kids pocket knives. That takes us right back to Free State of Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Matthew McConaughey sees his son who he hasn't seen in years, and he patches things up by just like, here's a pocket knife, kid.
First he says, you know, I'm your pa, right? That's how you greet. That's how you greet your son after 10 years apart. But also, I'm sorry, we got to stop recording right now. I got to go hug my son. Just make sure he doesn't resent me.
You're doing good, man.
Pa.
Eyes a pappy.
Was that a Life reference?
Yeah, that's my joint right there.
We covered that one too.
I know. I was mad because I wanted parts of that one. But I was like, you know what? I got to wait my turn.
Yeah, Niles had first choice.
And I ain't mad. Get your shit off, Niles. Salute.
You should check out his stand-up if you haven't. It's really good.
Niles on point. Yeah.
He's funny. He's great. He's going to be big. So then he leaves his son at the baseball game. When he gets back, his wife is obviously furious, and he brings him the worst looking fucking pizza I've ever seen. What is going on with this pizza? First of all, it's like a personal size pizza, which that's not how you apologize to somebody. You got to get them their own, at least large pie. And then
bought him a Little Caesars.
Yeah. Is that what passes for pizza in the Bay Area? We gotta talk to them up there.
I don't know. Don't look at me.
Yeah, I'm not speaking on nothing Bay Area. All right. I listen to rap music.
All respect to E40 and Mac Dre, but
they be done straighten us out.
Their pizza looks straight trash in this movie, at least.
It's John talking, y'all.
You know where to find me? No, you don't. Yeah. You'll never will.
You think the Bay gonna let you disrespect their pizza, man?
Love the Bay, not the pizza.
All right, that's fair.
Ian, did you have anything to add about the pizza situation?
Well, I was gonna say something, but I've got like a crazy gardener situation going on outside my window. You guys hear that?
What is going on with everybody tonight?
Listen.
They're trying not to let this podcast happen. The deep state, they're out to get us. They're out to silence us. Talking about a 20-year-old movie.
We'll fix that in post.
30-year-old movie. Jesus.
But yeah, back to Gil's family. So he's divorced from, is it Ellen? Helen?
His wife's name?
Yeah.
He's divorced from Ellen, and Ellen's got a new boyfriend, maybe fiance, Tim.
I think they hint that he's a fiance, but maybe Gil doesn't know that yet.
Tim is like a rock. He's a cool dude, but their whole relationship between Tim and Ellen is based on her yelling at him to call the cops and him not calling the cops. Like that happens over and over. That's their whole shtick.
You know what? I respect Tim for it. A healthy distrust of the police is important to have.
I'm not calling them people, man. They're not going to de-escalate nothing. Gilby done laid all of them out and me.
And the dog.
Yeah.
Tim's a smart guy.
Tim's smart, played by an actor you definitely recognize, even if you don't know his name.
Yeah.
He's a supreme, that guy, but his name is Chris Mulkey. He doesn't get a lot to do as Tim, which is weird because he was already getting like sizable roles around this time. Maybe the role got reduced in editing, but I know him best as Walt McCready from a little show called Justified. Boom, bonus Justified crossover of the week.
Justified crossover of the week.
Oh, damn.
Damn, you love a Justified, Jack.
I'm trying to get them to let me write for the next season, I think.
A word? Yeah, yo, who I got to talk to, man?
I'm qualified.
I'll let him know.
I guess I just hope like Timothy Olyphant listens to this podcast one day. The odds don't seem in our favor.
Tag him.
He's punching a punch card. And when you fill all the slots, you get one episode script.
I got my idea already. I'm not telling anyone though, so they don't steal it. And then the other major character we meet in this section is a baseball reporter named Jewel, played by Ellen Barkin. She's pretty good in the role, I would say, but
Took you a while.
there's not a ton to the character. Yeah, it was a pregnant pause.
There's not too much to her. Yeah, she's a really appealing actor. And you see that they brought her into this movie because they're like, we need a female co-lead just to make this movie have broader appeal. And she's doing her best, but the character kind of doesn't go anywhere. Her story doesn't do anything.
As somebody who's an avid listener of sports radio, I wasn't really thrilled by her performance. It was very forgettable.
Yeah, they seemed like afraid to make her too like confrontational, which a lot of these like radio sports drive time dudes are. Like she's not going full Mike Francesa or anything like that.
Yeah, she was more like instigator than passionate, you know what I mean? Sportscaster, you know what I'm saying? She was more like, oh, let me get the two people together who would make the show great instead of her making the show great, you know what I mean?
But maybe that was just like the flavor of sports radio at the time. I don't know.
Or maybe that's just how sports radio is out west.
More laid back.
Because you know how we give it up in New York, like we on everybody ass sports.
Mike Francesa is either like shouting or asleep. At his
Everybody
desk.
shouts nowadays. Mike started it, but everybody does it. Everybody has a rant now. It's crazy. So I know it wasn't like that back then because it wasn't as lucrative a business.
That's true.
Even with that said, as a 13-year-old kid, I was listening to sports radio and I wasn't getting the same feel in the movie that I would get from my WFAN.
If Tony Scott doesn't know anything about baseball, what are the odds he knows anything about like talk radio, like sports talk radio? Like, he's probably out of his element again in that arena.
She did what she was supposed to do, though, with the important scenes in the movie when she's talking to Gil and they're trying to track him down and all that. That was probably more of the purpose than her actually coming across as an authentic sportscaster or radio personality.
Or even like when she meets up with Bobby, you think maybe there's going to be like a romantic spark there, but that never pans out either. Maybe to the movie's credit.
That's so weird. Her whole story for most of the movie is her begging Manny, the agent played by Leguizamo, to like, you got to let me interview Bobby. And he's like, no, you insulted him because you questioned whether he's worth $40 million. Right. And it's just back and forth. And then she finally gets the interview and they show her for 10 seconds.
Yeah, they're just like shooting the shit out of bar.
Yeah, I didn't even know that
like nothing happens.
Oh, man.
And then the last thing we want to talk about in this section is, I know DeNiro, Snipes, big names for sure. They got their money. But I think most of the movie's budget probably went to the music licensing budget.
Yeah.
So we get 4 Rolling Stones drops in the movie, which are not cheap.
No.
And I think they said it, they justify it by Gil being a Stones fan.
Yeah, they sneak in that he's actually possibly equally as obsessed with the Stones. At one point, he claims to have been hanging out at the studio with Mick Jagger while he was recording the song he's listening to.
And we have no reason to doubt Gil. He would never lie to us.
True.
Gil's solid. Gil's a solid individual. Stand-up guy. Forget about it.
But yeah, they start the movie, Sympathy for the Devil is the first thing you hear when you see Gil's face and he's driving in his van. You're like, maybe something's up with Gil. He's introducing himself and he may be not what he seems.
Little Blast Zone tidbit. Do you know what movie closes with Sympathy for the Devil that we've covered? Kinda.
It's a deep cut.
It's a deep cut. It's Fallen, the lost Blast Zone episode that we recorded and never released. We went on hiatus right after we recorded it. It's too good.
We just listened to it for ourselves.
I got to drop that like a Nas lost tapes.
We're going to do it. Release the Fallen cut. It's happening.
One of these days.
Eventually. It's still in its raw audio form. So Ian's editing process is
I got that one
intricate.
on a reel. I got that one on a reel, right?
Yeah.
It's not digital.
That's tape to tape. Yeah. The way you used to record off the radio.
Word.
Takes a little longer. Have to edit it with the razor blade and scotch tape.
So that's act 1. A lot of setup, more than I remembered. But I guess that's how we decided to cut the movie up.
Yeah, but it really does. Like, they're on parallel tracks. It's about 2 different guys living 2 different lives for almost an hour of the movie.
Yeah, a good half of the movie, they really have very little interaction with each other. But then I think that does make their collision more of a payoff. Yeah. Like, it's more rewarding when they finally do start impacting each other's lives.
And that's when the movie gets good. In Act 2, when these star actors have scenes where they actually talk to each other, that's when it starts really going off.
And I did want to say about Act 2, like, I wish DeNiro and Snipes did more together because they have a lot of good chemistry. I think they play off each other really well. And I think Snipes is underrated. I think he's become kind of a punchline because of the direct-to-video movies he was doing to get out of like his debts. And also like the stories about Blade Trinity and everything that went down on that set and how much of a diva he was. But like the more we hear about that stuff, the more I'm on his side about a lot of it. And I don't think he gets enough credit for being like a good actor because he became kind of a punchline.
That's true. But yeah, watch this
Snipes
movie.
is my god, man. Snipes is my god. One of my favorite actors of all time. He came out the gate with some heat, but as of late, maybe not that much heat. But Snipes always good with me. Kidding me?
But he was really good in My Name is Dolomite and the Coming to America sequel.
Yeah. Eddie threw him a life. What is it? A life preserver?
Yeah.
How you say it? Yeah, Eddie did that. Shout out to Eddie.
But now I think it's having that cascading effect where maybe other directors are starting to look at him.
That's it. That's all it takes. Just get a good look, and that's it. People follow suit. That's why it's not what you know, it's who you know. You know the right people, they put you in position to succeed, and then away we go. As you can see, I'm on Blast Zone Pod because I know the right people. The right ears is going to hear me. You know what I mean? And here we go.
It's a snowball effect. That's right. Let's see here. Okay. Although I do like Mahershala as Blade, but they gotta like settle down and actually make the damn movie.
They got to make that movie one way or another.
He's 50 years old now.
Yeah, they sent a meme around saying by the time they shoot it, he gonna look like they had him aged tremendously in the pictures. I gotta send it to you.
Oh, you know what? I bet it was from because in True Detective season 3.
That's what it was. That's what it was.
There's two timelines, and in one of them he's 70.
Yeah,
okay.
That's a
so
picture.
They probably just used that one. That's funny though. But he's not that much younger than like Wesley at this point. So
he looks a little younger because he probably Botox down, but
yeah, Botox and Ozempic.
Word.
That's what it's all about these days.
You believe that?
I mean, like, there's going to be all kinds of lawsuits about that shit in 10 years because there's no way people did any kind of studies about what it does to your body.
Ozempic, man. I got my man Busta Rhymes looking crazy. But in any event, I don't want to get off track.
All right, so should I get into Act 2?
Yeah, let's hear what happens next.
Okay. Bobby doesn't want to admit he's not 100% physically, but there's no denying the fact that the $40 million man is struggling at the plate and feeling the pressure. Meanwhile, his rival Primo is on a hot streak, which explains why tensions are high when Bobby once again confronts Primo, demanding he give up his jersey number, and things escalate into a physical scuffle between the two. And superfan Gil is acutely aware of all of this. Due to the fact he's unemployed and not allowed to see his son, Gil uses all his free time to obsess over the Giants and begins physically stalking his new favorite player, Bobby. Gil blames Primo for Bobby's slump, and he confronts Primo alone in a hotel steam room. Primo tries to brush Gil off and reveals the true reason he won't give up his jersey number. He has a scar of the number 11 burned into the skin of his right shoulder. But Gil loses it and stabs Primo in the thigh, leaving him to die. Despite being shocked and saddened by the loss of his teammate, in the weeks following Primo's death, Bobby goes on a hot hitting streak. And Gil starts to get mad that he's not getting credit for turning things around. One day, while lurking around Bobby's beach house, Gil seizes upon a chance to save Bobby's son from drowning in high surf. A grateful Bobby takes in and befriends the soaked stranger, only to find Gil more and more off-putting as the conversation turns to the topic of baseball and the death of Juan Primo. Bobby says goodnight and sends Gil on his way, but a few minutes later, he realizes Gil has left with Bobby's car, and even worse, with his son.
No. How did he get the son out of there?
My God, Curly.
Yeah.
He's
Curly.
Curly.
We didn't talk about that at all. This is when we find out Gil's nickname or made up nickname.
Yeah.
Is that just his alias?
He couldn't say Gil because Bobby's been on the phone with Gil on Jules' radio show twice. So Gil is like a known dude.
So if he said he Gil, and now he looking like one of the crazed fans that Bobby speaks of often.
I love that he starts off with, no, I don't really watch baseball.
Yeah.
But then he's immediately calling out all this shit.
He literally says, I'm not obsessed with it.
Calls him Barry Bonds at one point.
Yeah.
This is the scene where at the beach out where he calls out like, oh, are you Barry Bonds? I was like, that was nice of the movie kind of acknowledged.
Did, right?
But
very, very subtle.
Wish they didn't do that, honestly. I thought that was a little bit of a...
That was cheap?
Yeah, it took me out of the moment a little bit. Like it makes you start to question the reality of the movie.
Yeah, what we said earlier, I wonder if they actually had to say that for legal reasons.
Oh, yeah. You know what? You might be right.
Oh, this is certainly not Barry Bonds, because in this universe, Barry Bonds exists, and he's not Bobby Rayburn, so there's no reason for Barry to sue us.
And Barry, I think at that time, Barry owned all of his player rights, his name and likeness, because he was never in any video baseball games, because he didn't sign with the Players Association, so it could have been a thing.
Him and MJ always had that going on, right?
Yeah, Player 99 and all that.
Yeah, God, I remember that. I'm trying to think of the game. One of the first shows I had.
It was a show because he was a part of the Player Association early, and then all of a sudden he just dropped out.
Yeah, you could play as him in like home run baseball or whatever, but then
triple play.
Oh boy, now we're dating ourselves. But
oh boy,
yeah, that's a good call out, Ian. I bet that has something to do with it. They were just covering their ass. I don't know if they ever got threatened, but it's starting to seem a little
just
obvious.
Just in case.
The movie has this fun habit of busting out Trent Reznor screaming every time Gil starts doing crazy shit. Which
he kind of jumps jumps out of a closet with the song, not literally, but Gil does a weird thing where he's stewing in his apartment. He's getting more and more mad. He's watching the game, and an Orthodox Jewish man walks by. Unfortunately, Gil commits an accidental act of anti-Semitism as he throws a knife through his own front door to stab a cockroach, but it frightens the guy outside the door. And as you're sitting there bewildered about what the hell's going on, Trent Reznor busts in, just screaming into a distorted microphone.
That's such a Tony Scott ass scene. The knife through the cockroach. Which, why isn't Gil in the Olympics?
That's what I'm saying. Because that was some crazy aim, man.
I mean, he might have really could have been a pitcher with that kind of hand-eye coordination.
He's so good with the knife. And it sets up the end of the movie that it's a real threat when he threatens to chuck it at Bobby at the very climax. You're like, oh, we know that this guy can put a knife exactly where he aims it.
Word. Good call.
You still haven't seen my best pitch.
I got questions about that last scene, man.
That scene's wild. But before we get that, let's talk about the steam room a little bit. It's just another scene that I really liked. I thought it worked well.
That is, for me, the real climax is that rainy baseball scene that we'll make fun of in the third act. But for me, this is the payoff of the movie. The crazy guy just went nuts. He just murdered a guy. Yeah. And the scene is done really well. Like, Benicio plays it beautifully, and Tony Scott plays it beautifully because he does something that he does several times in the movie, which is fuck with the chronology a little bit. Gil leaves this steam room before you know what happened. Like, he's walking out, and then it just cuts to a little flashback. And you're like, oh, he didn't just argue with him and walk out. He fucking killed him in this beautifully chilling, gruesome way.
As far as we know, the first murder Gil's ever committed, right? We don't get any hints that he's got a background like that. But really well done. Although I have to question the security at the hotel. You don't see this guy walking out on camera and through the lobby. You don't question that at all?
Not only that, but this is how far y'all going to protect your prize baseball players? Like, how do you even get that close?
Yeah.
Right. You should have
that was sloppy.
Some kind of bodyguard situation, especially when he's literally in a sauna, as unarmed as you could be.
It's different times, though, too. Back in the 90s, I guess it's a little different approach than today.
Maybe he just was like, I can handle this crazy.
So much for that.
At least Gil had the wherewithal to take the knife with him. I thought he was going to leave it there, which I was like, that'd be a dead giveaway because it says his last name on it.
Hello.
Probably.
Yeah. He takes the knife and he takes something else that we don't find out till later, too.
That was gross. Yeah. He took that much time, though, to just cut off a big chunk of his skin.
It didn't take much time. Gil knife sharp.
That's right.
That's a quality knife he's got there. It doesn't take but a second to skin a man's shoulder.
There's more than one way to skin a primo.
Oh, man. R.I.P. Primo. Come on.
That was a rough death. That was one. I love plausibility and character behavior and just human actions. And the way Benicio played, they had a scuffle. He gets the knife. It's stuck in his thigh. It hits the big artery. And you see it pulsing and the blood squirting out. And you're like, this man is losing blood fast. And the way he just kind of sits down, exhausted and unable to really do anything, it just feels really real and it makes it more tragic and creepy. It's really good.
Oh, shit. I just heard the thunder up here. We got it. It came to my neck of the woods now. Oh. Yeah. No, I think the whole thing was acted well, directed well. Really, the whole second act, I think, is pretty strong.
Second act is probably the strongest act of the movie.
Because the scene at the beach house was my favorite scene of the movie. That felt like the climax to me.
When they're playing baseball, where they're hitting balls on the beach.
Yeah, we finally get, the veil is dropping from Gil's facade of a guy who's keeping it all together. And Bobby's slow realization that maybe this guy is bad news is played really subtly. And he knows that maybe not the extent to which Gil is mentally ill, but he knows, I got to get this guy out of my house.
Mentally ill.
Yeah. He's fucking Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
He's like, I got to get this guy out of my house and off my property.
Yeah, keep the jersey, too.
Yeah, exactly. He sees him wearing the jersey. That's kind of a tell. And then he almost says, aren't you thankful that Primo's dead? And he's like, no, man, I'm not. And that's where Wesley Snipes really shines. That feels like a real guy having a real reaction and trying to be friendly. He's scared, but he's trying to, urge the guy off his property in a friendly way to not upset him more. It's really good acting.
I would say if there was one thing I wish the movie had done, it would have been not to make Gil a legitimate hero for saving Bobby's son. If he had manufactured that situation somehow, I think that would have been stronger. Because as it stands, he did still save his life legitimately.
It's like he got a payoff for being a stalker.
Exactly. Yeah. It's rewarding him.
But what happened with the kid in the first place? Was the story that the dog was secretly a Jaws and it the little puppy had grown up and it swims out and it basically drowns the child who's doing fine until then. And all of a sudden he falls off his boogie board and he's helpless. He's on this shot from below, Jaws style, beneath a swimmer looking up at the light. But nothing really happened to the kid.
The maid ain't stand a chance.
I wonder why the kid was freaking out. It's almost like the kid did it. Gil paid him to freak out.
With what money?
Gave him a couple $2 and some bad pizza.
Yeah, showed up with the world's worst pizza.
His patented winning ways.
He gave him a butterfly knife and a personal pie.
Gave him a Rambo knife and a nasty Red Baron pizza. nigga. Take that with you.
He's like, oh, black olives, you could pick them off.
Yeah, it was mushrooms because
It was mushrooms.
Gil's pizza order is unfortunately my pizza order, pepperoni and mushrooms.
That's a good
Oh,
pizza,
dang.
but as a kid, maybe not.
Yeah, exactly. That I came to that later in life. Also, how long were they at Bobby's house?
The sun went down.
Yeah.
He was there for a
It
minute.
seemed like they were there all day just chilling.
Did they have supper?
They had to share a meal, I think, or they'd both be pretty hungry.
Word.
Time is very fluid in this movie. That's part of Tony Scott's direction. There's that literal like backwards flowing time in sections. There's big jumps. Some of the key moments, like it goes from the ballpark and it jumps ahead right to the situation at the house after he's abandoned his kid earlier on. There's a lot of sort of playing with time. And I like that Tony Scott gives the audience a lot of credit to follow where he's going without hand holding you step by step through the moments. But this is one of the areas where you're like, how did that afternoon go? Is it still the same day? What have they been doing?
Yeah, I think that's a Tony Scott signature move throughout a lot of his movies, though.
Okay.
I think he can be kind of loosey-goosey with timelines. But yeah, it wasn't a big complaint. I was just more, I don't know, even if you saved my kid, I don't know if I want you in my house for 9 hours.
I know.
Facts. Take this jersey. Let me sign it. Be on your merry way, sir.
Uh-huh.
You at my
Like-
crib chopping it up. He probably took a shit and all types of things over there. Like, nah, you going too
Maybe.
far, bro.
First thing he does is like, can I have a beer? Oh,
Like,
now
nah,
you're
you getting comfy. I'm
Yeah.
surprised he ain't sleep over out this mode.
got some pajamas?
Yeah,
could
can I
borrow.
crash on the couch? What's on the tube?
He ruined the sleepover when he showed off that he stole his jersey from his closet. Otherwise, he was on track.
That's a
for
fact.
cozy night at Bobby's house.
He told him find some clothes to wear. He did.
He
Yeah,
sure
true.
did.
Put on a full-ass baseball player uniform. Like,
Well, I mean, in his defense, who has their jersey just hanging up in their closet?
their old team,
Yeah,
no less.
like, what we doing?
Like,
What we doing?
Sentimental guy. All right. Did we talk through all of Act 2? Is it time to take me out to the ball game and bring this thing home?
yeah, I think so. Let's hear what Gil and the gang get up to in Act 3.
What wacky hijinks? All right.
Gil and the gang.
As Bobby calls the police to tell them his son's been kidnapped, Gil takes the boy to visit his old baseball buddy, Coop. Coop now works as a night security guard, and he's puzzled to see his friend from decades ago. When Coop realizes that Gil is holding Bobby Rayburn's son hostage, he tries to help the boy escape, but Gil catches them and kills Coop with a baseball bat to the head. Then Gil delivers his ultimatum to Bobby. If Bobby doesn't hit a home run for Gil in tonight's game, Gil will kill Bobby's son. That night at the stadium, things get very tense as Bobby struggles in his plate appearances and rain threatens to end the game before he can hit a homer. In his final at bat, Bobby comes face to face with Gil, who has taken an umpire's uniform and snuck onto the field. As the rain pours down, Gil winds up to throw a knife at Bobby, and he's shot to death by the police. And in a happy ending, Bobby and the cops find his son alive and free him from Gil's secret hideout beneath the Little League Stadium where he once played.
First things first, we got to talk about Coop. We didn't really bring it up in the rest of the synopsis, but all throughout this movie, Gil is talking about his buddy Coop. He was the best ball player he ever knew, should have been a manager, could have made it to the big show. And also, Gil straight up lies and tells Bobby that he was in the major leagues.
He does. Yeah, he has a whole other story in Gil's billiards room there.
But then when we see Coop, first of all, he doesn't have the build of a professional athlete, let's say.
At least
Well,
not an active one.
He's got like the John Kruk now look going on.
He's a big old dude.
He's a big dude. And he also doesn't seem to really remember Gil until he does. And then he seems kind of bummed that he's there.
He's not that happy. He's okay. Come inside, guys.
First of all, he finds him at work, which is a weird thing to
Yeah,
do.
like-
Go visit your old friend.
You would thought Coop was like Johnny Bench or somebody the way he was talking about him.
Yeah, so that's the first clue is, oh wait, Coop is, what is he, a night watchman at a like construction
Correct.
site?
Yep. And maybe a walkie-talkie for the supervisor.
He's working all
And-
alone in this funky little trailer.
It doesn't
But
seem like a bad gig. It seems boring, but you could probably catch up on your reading, I guess.
he's made it his own little place. The actor's really good though, because you're right, it's a complicated role to convey all this stuff in a short span. Like, oh wait, who are you? Oh, you're Gil? Oh, wait a minute. Gil's always been kind of a nutcase, and like, how do I deal with the situation? And the actor Charles Hallahan really pulls all of that off in a short span.
Yeah, I think he does a great job. He's wary of Gil, but I got the vibe from the way he was acting that he knows he's a little touched and doesn't want to upset him, so he's playing along to some degree.
Yeah.
But then when Gil starts, like Gil shows up with a kid that's clearly not his kid, and the various hijinks he has them get up to, Coop's patient starts wearing thin.
Yeah, I mean, he has the whole hostage conversation with Bobby on the phone with Coop standing right there. So what was Gil thinking? That like Coop was not only his baseball buddy, but like his kidnapping buddy, and he would think this was a cool thing to do?
Thought they were like ride or dies, even though they hadn't seen
guess.
each other in something like 30 years.
Poor mixed up up Gil.
Gil's delusional, bro. Gil, have a coconut smile, bro. What's going on with this guy? Like, it started out damn near promising, and this man talking about falling off a cliff. My goodness, man. In a matter of, 90 minutes?
Yeah, Gil goes really off the deep end in this third section.
Yeah.
It's like the movie's trying to do like a gradual build up to it, but I think the leap from stalking him at his house to pretending to be the umpire, the major
Right,
league.
like, is the umpire living to this day? Like,
Yeah, where's that umpire at?
Probably killed that guy. But yeah, Coop gives us another big reveal that maybe we mentioned that like takes us to that other level of how crazed Gil is. As Gil is killing Coop, bashing his head with the bat, he's like, Coop, you could have been a great major leaguer.
Coop.
He had higher hopes for Coop than Coop had for Coop.
Coop's, as he's being killed, he's like, that was Little League, bro.
Get your shit together, man.
They were like 10 years old.
Sloppy, man.
Gil was a mess. And then we get to the game at Candlestick, and I think there was a baseball game happening. I couldn't tell. It was very dark and rainy.
Man, they calling that game in real life, man.
Oh, like they might not have even started the game if they checked the forecast.
Yeah, like
just stay your ass home.
Bobby Rayburn got mad juice.
What's the thing? Like, he's got the cops there. Like, they clearly know what's going on, but like nobody told the grounds crew. Like, the game's still at risk of being called.
How people even making pitches in that kind of weather?
Yeah, no one could tip off the pitcher. I guess Gil threatens him, don't tip off the pitcher. If I see him serving up softballs,
Right.
I'll kill your kid. So he has to keep it secret. But like that forces Bobby to do more ridiculous non-baseball stuff. Charge the mound, literally lift his bat like he's about to hit the pitcher in the head. No one reacts. Like the umpires don't intercede. It doesn't like clear the benches. He's just like given the freedom to.
If that was Nolan Ryan on the mound, he would have put him in the full-on headlock and given him the old uppercut.
Would have been
Ryan
ugly.
would have definitely shot the jab.
R.I.P. Robin Ventura. Not really, but just is the respect of his family. But yeah, like this whole situation's a little weird. Like, who knows who's in on it? The cops are there. We know the Ellen Barkin character's helping them out, but everyone on the field is like none the wiser, which is just a strange kind of way to handle it.
Even at the point where Bobby gets in the fight with who everyone thinks is the home plate umpire, only Bobby knows it's Gil. That umpire is wielding a knife and stabbing people. And like the other team is still pulling Bobby off the umpire, thinking that he's fighting with the umps.
At first I was like, I don't think that's actually Gil. I think Bobby's seeing ghosts or whatever.
Oh, that would have been a cool twist.
That would have been an interesting angle to go with it, where like Bobby just loses it, beats up a innocent ump because he thinks it's Gil. And then I guess you had to come up with another scenario.
I don't know how he knew that was Gil, for one. For two, how was his right hand after punching Gil with the mask?
Yeah, he didn't even take the mask off. He punched him through a catcher's mask. That can't feel good.
No.
It's like the old Leonard Fournette. I remember him throwing haymakers to somebody with a helmet on. That was ill-informed, ill-advised.
That was goofy, very goofy.
It's goofy behavior. That's why he's out of the league, I think.
But the weird behavior in the scene is not just limited to the baseball. Like, we get it. Tony Scott doesn't know baseball. The stadium is ridiculously dark. Like, they did not turn the lights on for this night game. They just put some like work lamps in the dugouts. So it's almost pitch black on the field. It's so wet. The entire infield is just a flooded pool. It's totally ridiculous. No game would ever be played like this. But then...
And poor John Kruk is drowning in that pool.
That's true. Crucky runs out to try to save the umpire from his teammate, and he gets shanked in the neck and goes face down in the mud and just stays there for the rest of the scene. He's like dead.
Just drowns in a puddle or of blood loss. But either way, Kruk did not see the end of this movie.
No.
Yeah, that third act, it got a little unreal.
Yeah, such promise in the second act, and then the third act lets it get away from them a little bit.
It's almost like they was running out of time or budget or something. Let's close the show.
They couldn't hire a gaffer for the final game.
No lights. We spent the budget on Mick Jagger royalties. But no, even the physics don't work. They've got the cops fully surrounding Gil, and they show it. They take pains to show it's a 360-degree circle. There are policemen on every side of him. They're all pointing their weapons towards the center of the circle, and they all fire. Like, you see it on camera. These cops would have massacred each other just brutally.
And whoever else is present.
And everybody else, both teams.
Yeah. Full-on firing squad. How they took
circular firing squad, just like in the jokes.
It's like a Mexican standoff, but they're all pointing their guns at the same person. It's completely unnecessary.
It was a little silly. It was
a good shot, though. And that's The Fan. I think we can all agree. Good, not great movie.
I would agree. Good
movie.
But not for nothing. I watch it every time it comes on. Time it comes on.
It's definitely not going in the never watch again pile. I will throw this on. Even if it's not just on, I might throw it on if I'm looking for like a nice sports themed thriller. There's not that many of them out there.
Yeah, if it's on cable, watch the middle, and then if it gets late, just go to bed. Don't worry about the ending.
Yeah, that's perfect. Watch it while you're getting ready to go somewhere.
Right.
As soon as the whack parts come out, you probably heading out the door.
You can move on.
Maybe going to a late night baseball game. Who knows?
Yeah, where the lights are out.
All right, so let's catch up with the cast and crew.
Okay.
Tony Scott. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me start with Foof. Let's get into Foof's career first.
Foof, there it is.
So Foof, he wrote TV comedies, which is why this is such a weird movie to
Oh.
have been his first and only movie. He wrote for Cheers, Newhart, and Bob, which I assume is another Bob Newhart sitcom.
I assume so. There were a bunch of them, and I couldn't even straighten them all out. So let's go with that.
So it's kind of like money laundering scheme. They're like, oh, like a Ponzi. Like we ran out of money for Newhart. We got to start a new show. Like it's called Bob. And then runs Bob Newhart. And the third one's New Bob Hart. But then, yeah, right after this, he got back to writing TV shows, Boston Legal. So he's got a little David E. Kelly connection there.
There you go.
And as mentioned, Terriers, which if you haven't seen Terriers, you got to check that shit out. It's so good.
I got to do it one of these days.
Ian, you haven't watched Justified. You haven't watched Terriers. It's like you don't even value me as a friend.
I actually did watch season 1 of Justified before I met you. I just haven't gone back.
Oh.
No offense.
Well, just start with season 2. It's way
Okay.
better. And then Tony Scott. So this is Tony Scott's second time in the zone. Y'all might remember him from the True Romance episode.
Which we liked.
Yeah, I mean, True Romance, classic. But True Romance was a bomb. Right after that, though, he made Crimson Tide, which was a hit. Then The
Okay.
Fan. Then Enemy of the State, which was a hit. Then Spy Game, which was a bomb. Then Man on Fire, which was a hit. Then Domino, which was a fucking disaster. Then Deja Vu, which was a hit. By the way, love Deja Vu. That's a great Denzel movie. If you're looking for like kind of a mid-tier Denzel thriller, that's a good one. But then his last 2 movies were The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3 and Unstoppable. What, are those both train movies? This guy ended his career with 2 train movies?
Oh, weird.
It's weird.
Something that old guys do. Get into trains.
They both kind of bombed. And then he sadly committed suicide, I think, in 2012, which we miss Tony.
Dark ending. Very sad. Tragic.
Yeah, August 19th, 2012.
I ain't know he committed suicide. Holy smoke.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Tony Scott. Frank Darabont actually did a draft of the script, which I thought was really interesting that they went with Foof instead.
Darabont Foof. What's the difference?
One of them wrote The Shawshank Redemption. One wrote for both Bob and Newhart. Whatever. So let's talk about Snipes. We'll give Snipes
now
top
we get ready.
billing.
Now we gonna talk. Man.
So this is not Snipes' first time on the Blast Zone. He was in Drop Zone, which we covered. You remember Drop Zone, Mike?
Nah, I passed on Drop Zone.
Oh, it's
You know what?
Drop Zone was, I got to look up the timeline because
We kind of liked Drop Zone.
Yeah.
It was a certain point where Snipes pissed me off. Hold on, let me just look up the timeline.
It looks silly. It looks like Snipes got suckered into doing a rip-off Point Break, but it's
That was a thing because Point Break is one of my favorite movies.
He did Drop Zone, and then he did To Wong Fu, and then Money Train.
Money Train, I like.
But Money Train was definitely a bomb. That was a big bomb. So
Yeah.
if you want to come back for round 3, we could do Money Train.
I like
whenever.
Money Train. But listen, you got Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes together. That was a bomb, though.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that-
it was
that's
around Wesley Snipes. Like I said earlier, Wesley Snipes, one of my favorite actors as a kid. He has a bunch of great sports movies, good or great, however you want to frame it. You know, along with this, White Men Can't Jump. Then you got
Yep.
Wildcats early in his career. Then you also have what was the
Major
other one?
League.
Major League. So he had me with the sports movies. But then I was a big action movie guy, Passenger 57. Because I didn't see New Jack City until later.
Same.
Like
I didn't see that
my
till
introduction to Snipes was Passenger 57, actually. Wesley Snipes, bro, he was a hero to me. You know what I'm saying? He was dark skinned. The ladies loved him. He could fight. He could hoop. What can he do?
Could he hoop though? Could he hoop?
I mean, listen, I'm just telling you from my standpoint before I knew he couldn't hoop and he was a terrible athlete.
Yeah, the man can't swing a baseball bat to save his life.
I just looked at him like a guy who could do it all. And I didn't think, among those things was putting a dress on, but we're not going to get into that. He bounced back though.
I do wonder, I was too young to know what the reception to Wong Fu was like at the time. So I'm not super familiar with how it was received.
Neither am I, but I do know that there are a select few people who loved it.
Oh, I think it's like a cult classic. now.
Yeah.
People really dig that movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's 4 bombs in a row, which is rough. Drop Zone, To Wong Fu, which was a box office bomb, Money Train, and this one. And then he did Murder at 1600, which I also remember liking. It wasn't so much action. It was more of like a thriller mystery, murder mystery. Somebody gets
Okay.
murdered in the White House and he gets blamed. And then he did U.S. Marshals, which I used to really like. That was like the semi-sequel to The Fugitive, where Tommy Lee
Right.
Jones played the same character, but nobody else really came back. Well, his whole team came back, but it's not compared to The Fugitive, but it's good. It's fine.
Okay.
I remember getting through that movie. It wasn't terrible.
Yeah, it was always on HBO when we had the illegal box, so I watched it probably 100 times. Then Blade in 98, I think, was a big shot of adrenaline into his
Yep.
career.
Sure.
And then he got in some tax trouble, started making movies just to make money real
Yep.
quick. He was famously hard to work with on the set of Blade Trinity. Patton Oswalt did a whole stand-up bit about how crazy he was on the set of Blade Trinity. He would only talk to the director through Post-it notes. If he wanted to say something to the director, which I think was David S. Goyer, he would write down what he wanted to say on a Post-it note and hand it to an assistant, and the assistant would hand it to the director.
That's insane.
There was one scene where he was laying at the end. Have you seen Blade Trinity, Mike?
Yeah, I've seen them all.
So he's laying on the the autopsy table and you think he's dead and then his eyes shoot open. He refused to open his eyes, so they had to CGI his eyes opening.
Why?
I don't know. He didn't like how they wrote the character, but he was contractually obligated to do it. And the more you hear about it, the less crazy he sounds and the more like somebody who's just passionate about the character and didn't like what they were doing.
Okay.
So
yeah, odds is nuts though.
I think it was a bit of a smear job though, like from the studio
He was trying to
against him.
sabotage it?
They were making it sound like he was, but I think he was just trying to make a better movie because that movie is not good.
No, that wasn't great.
And then, like we said, he's had a comeback lately. He starred in some movies with Eddie Murphy, and he had a really funny cameo on What We Do in the Shadows. If you watch that show at the end of season 1, it was great. It really gave me a newfound appreciation for him. And that's the thing, like he's really funny too. I don't think people give him enough credit for that.
So that's one of the reasons why he always provided good comedic breaks in all of his movies, little one-liners and whatnot.
Yeah, except like even Blade, like he was serious when he said the lines, but they were funny lines.
Right.
So, what was the big one from the first movie? Some motherfuckers always trying to ice skate uphill. It's such a clunky line to deliver at the climax of like right before you kill the main villain, but it's
that was like the thing back in those days, them little one-liners.
You need a zinger.
And then for people of like our generation, and by our I mean me and Mike, Ian might remember DeNiro's other run a little better, like the 80s run.
His Midnight Run.
What, Taxi Driver?
Taxi Driver was
Raging
70s,
Bull.
I think. But yeah, Raging Bull, Midnight Run. But for me, this was like DeNiro's best run because he did The Bronx Tale in 93, which he also directed. Then he did Casino and Heat in 95, which is just huge.
Pretty big.
I'm one of the rare people that thinks Casino is better than Goodfellas, which I know is kind of
depending on the day of the week, I'll stand with you on that because I hold both of those at the top of my favorite movie list, Casino and Goodfellas. I don't never slot them.
I just love a movie where like you learn how shit works, and Casino's all about learning how casinos work. That's why it's so long. There's so many shots of just like how it operates, which I thought was really interesting. He did Sleepers in 96, and they did Copland, Jackie Brown, Ronin, which stay tuned for Ronin. We got to cover that one.
That's a cool one. I can't wait to do that.
Analyze This, all like back to back to back. So that was like, that's what I always remember is like De Niro's prime. And then really once the 2000s hit, it took a big dip in quality. Like he didn't have that many great movies in the 2000s. I mean, I like The Irishman a lot.
Is that when all the Fockers happened?
Meet the Parents I liked, but Meet the Fockers I thought was getting ridiculous.
Yeah, Meet the Fockers was.
But Little Fockers was even worse.
Those was hits for him. He was able to connect with a different age group of audience.
That's true. Yeah, doing comedies probably kept him relevant. And then he popped up in Joker, but I thought he's pretty bad in Joker, honestly.
Yeah, he was just there so he won't get fined. Probably.
Yeah, exactly. He was contractually obligated. But listen to this shit. I sent this to Ian, and I also tweeted about it from the Blast Zone podcast Twitter account. But his next movie, he's starring in dual roles as both Vito Genovese and Frank Costello in Barry Levinson's mob drama Alto Nights. That's going to be terrible.
Yeah, how is he going to do roles at 80-something years old?
Of two very different guys, too. Like Frank Costello and Vito Genovese don't look anything like each other. They don't act anything like each other. And also, Barry Levinson is not the guy I would go to for a mob drama.
That was a beef I had with The Irishman. Like him playing his younger self and the CG on his face. I couldn't get past it.
Whether they wanted him to look 25 or 80, he always looked 50.
Right.
Irishman to me. Like,
I
no
couldn't
matter
get
what.
past it. I'm like, what's going on? Y'all scrubbed his face? What's up?
But yeah, why would you do it? I mean, he's not Eddie Murphy. Why is he trying to play all the lead roles in a movie himself?
This is something I would classify as doing shit. He's just doing shit.
He's only got so many years left. You know, he's trying stuff
just
out.
Doing shit.
Somebody's got to explain that better, though, because it's not a comedy.
Yeah, I don't have high hopes for this movie, but like I'll watch it when it hits streaming just to see the disaster.
Yeah, we all will.
All right, Mike, this is the big moment. I need you to plug your stuff. Tell people where they can find you.
Plug my stuff. Well, you can find me at your local bodega right next to the cat. Now, y'all can find me on Instagram, man. Regular Mike, Regular M1ke. I got a gang of videos that I've done over the years. Enjoy that back catalog. You could also find me on Twitter, same name, Regular M1ke. I'm not a rock star like these guys, but I might drop a little couple tweets here and there. I'm trying to build my profile there. You could also find me on YouTube. I do snack reviews. Same name, Regular Mike, Regular M1ke.
El
Snacko, the guard, asks about me. So yeah, those are the places you can find my content. And come on down, man. There's a lot of big things get ready to happen for me going forward. I was on a little hiatus probably over the last year, but I'm starting to feel re-energized again. And I'm looking forward to creating, which is why I'm very thankful for this opportunity that you guys gave me. It's like right on time. Because as soon as I was starting to feel like, man, it's time for me to get back in it, John hit my line like, it's time. I'm like, all right, let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
That's perfect. And just to be clear, you're always welcome back. You ever have a movie you want to come talk about?
Oh yeah, I'll be texting you all the time about movies, all the time. I don't have no shame, Jack.
Let me drop the people the next episode so they know what to expect. Ian, do you know what's coming up? Are you familiar with the next one?
You know, I peeked at it, so I can't say that it's a surprise to me, but why don't you surprise the audience?
We're going from one big budget comedy in Evan Almighty to The Fan and back to another big budget comedy. But this one I remember kind of liking, so I'm curious to see how it holds up. We're doing the Will Ferrell Land of the Lost.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I'm looking forward to that one because I don't know about that one.
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic. It can't be worse than Evan Almighty, though. That movie was trash.
That one was bad.
So please remember to rate, review, subscribe to the show. You can also follow us at Blast Zone Pod on Twitter. You can email us blastzonepod@gmail.com. And we'll see you next time in the Blast Zone.
See you next time in the Blast Zone.
The Blast Zone.